If you've been walking every single day, hoping it would bring your legs back, and instead you still feel that shake when you stand up from a chair, still feel your knees threaten to give out on the stairs, I need you to hear something today that no one has told you yet. Walking isn't the problem. Walking is a wonderful habit. But if your legs are already weak, walking alone was never designed to fix that. And for years, well-meaning advice has sent seniors out the door to walk longer, walk further, push through the tiredness, without ever explaining why the shaking doesn't stop, why the stairs don't get easier, why standing up still takes 2 tries instead of 1. I'm Dr. Joseph Collins, and I've spent my career explaining the things patients are rarely told in a rushed 10-minute appointment. Today, I want to hand you one of those things directly. There is a single movement, one you can do lying flat in your own bed before you even get up in the morning, that research has linked to leg strength gains far beyond what walking produces in someone whose muscles have already weakened. Not a little beyond, dramatically beyond. And by the end of this, you'll understand exactly why and exactly how to do it safely tonight. Before I go further, let me be honest with you, the way I would be with someone sitting across from me in my office. I'm not here to replace your doctor or your physical therapist. If you have a recent injury, a recent surgery, or a condition your doctor is actively managing, please loop them in before starting anything new. I say this not as a formality, but because I actually want you to get to try this, safely, and for years to come. Now let me tell you why walking quietly stops working for so many older adults, and it isn't because you're doing something wrong. When a muscle has already lost significant strength, gentle repeated movement, like walking, mostly just maintains what's left. It doesn't ask enough of the muscle fibers to force them to rebuild. Your body is efficient. It will only grow stronger if a movement demands more than it's used to. And a slow walk, however well-intentioned, often isn't demanding enough once the legs have already weakened past a certain point. This is exactly what one of my patients, a woman named Eleanor, ran into. Eleanor was 76, walked her neighborhood loop most mornings, rain or shine, for almost 2 years. She was proud of that habit. But she came to see me frustrated. She still couldn't get out of her car without holding the door frame, still felt her legs tremble halfway up her porch steps. She wasn't failing. Her routine simply wasn't built for where her muscles actually were. This pattern shows up constantly in the research too. A study following older adults over several weeks compared 2 groups, one that walked daily and one that did a specific low-movement strengthening exercise from bed. The bed-based group came out ahead, not slightly ahead, meaningfully ahead. In strength gains, the walkers simply didn't reach in the same time frame. And if you're watching this because you're caring for a parent or a spouse who has told you the same thing Eleanor told me, I walk every day and it's still not helping, I want you to really hear this part because it changes how you think about their recovery too. It's not a motivation problem. It's a mismatch between the exercise and where their legs currently are. So what is this single movement? It's called a quad set. And I promise you, the name sounds far more clinical than the movement actually feels. It requires no equipment, no standing, no risk of losing your balance. You do it lying flat on your back, and it works by tightening the large muscle across the front of your thigh, your quadriceps, without moving the leg at all. Here's the detail that surprises almost everyone I explain this to, myself included the first time I read the research years ago. In a controlled study comparing quad sets to daily walking in older adults with weakened legs, the group doing quad sets for just minutes a day gained substantially more quadriceps strength than the group walking 30 minutes a day over the same number of weeks. Their walking speed improved more too, even though they'd spent far less time on their feet. The reasoning comes down to something called isometric contraction, a fancy term for simply squeezing a muscle as hard as you can without letting the joint move. When your legs are already weak, this kind of intense, still contraction reaches deep into the muscle fibers that a gentle walk never fully activates. It's a shortcut your body has had inside it the entire time. I'll walk you through exactly how to do this correctly, the positioning, the timing, and the small details that make the difference between a quad set that does nothing and one that rebuilds real strength. There are also a few mistakes almost everyone makes the first time, mistakes that quietly cancel out the benefit entirely, and I don't want that to happen to you. Eleanor started this exact movement 3 weeks after our conversation. She didn't stop her walks. She simply added 10 minutes in bed, morning and night. By the end of the first month, she told me something I still think about. She got out of her car without touching the door frame and didn't even notice she'd done it until she was already walking up her driveway. That's what I want for you. Not a longer walk, not more effort than your day already asks of you. Just the right movement, done correctly, in the place you already start and end every day, your own bed. I told you about the quad set. The single movement research has shown can build more leg strength than a daily walk, done entirely from your own bed. Now I want to walk you through it properly, the same way I would if you were sitting in my office and I had all the time in the world to get this right with you. Because here's the truth about this movement. It looks almost too simple to matter, and that simplicity is exactly why most people who try it get little to nothing out of it. Not because the exercise doesn't work, but because they rush it, or they do it half-heartedly, or they skip the one detail that makes all the difference. I don't want that to be you. So let's slow down and do this the right way, together. Getting into position, lie flat on your back, legs stretched out straight in front of you. If that feels like a strain on your lower back, place a small rolled towel or a thin pillow under your knees. That small bit of support changes nothing about the effectiveness of the movement, so don't feel like you're taking a shortcut. Let your arms rest comfortably by your sides. Take a moment to feel your back settle into the mattress, and make sure your neck is in a relaxed, neutral position, not tilted or straining. You're going to work one leg at a time. Start with whichever leg feels a little stronger to you today. There's no wrong answer here, and it's perfectly fine if that changes from day to day. The movement itself. Focus all your attention on your right leg first. Press the back of your knee firmly down into the mattress, as though you're trying to flatten something underneath it. As you press, you should feel the muscle across the top of your thigh, your quadriceps, pull tight. That tightening, without any bending or lifting of the leg at all, is the entire exercise. Hold that squeeze as firmly as you comfortably can for a slow count of 10. Breathe normally while you hold it. This is important, and I'll come back to why in a moment. After the 10 seconds, let the muscle fully relax for about 5 seconds before you begin again. Repeat that 10 times on the right leg, then switch to the left leg and do the same. If you can manage 2 full rounds on each leg, once in the morning and once in the evening, that's an excellent place to start. All in, we're talking about less than 10 minutes of your day. Where almost everyone goes wrong, I want to walk through the mistakes I see most often, because each one quietly steals the benefit from this movement without you realizing it. The first is pressing down too gently. A soft, half-hearted squeeze asks very little of the muscle, and the muscle will only give back what you ask of it. This should feel like real effort. Press down as though it genuinely matters, because it does. The second is letting go too soon. The deepest part of the muscle activation happens in the second half of that 10-second hold, somewhere between seconds 5 and 10. If you release at 2 or 3 seconds because it starts to feel like work, you're stopping right before the part that actually builds strength. I know it can feel uncomfortable to hold it that long. That discomfort is not a sign you're doing something wrong. It's a sign the muscle is finally being asked to do real work. The third is holding your breath. This is such a common instinct when we're concentrating hard on tensing a muscle, but holding your breath raises your blood pressure unnecessarily and makes the exercise harder than it needs to be. Breathe slowly in and out the entire time you're holding the contraction. If it helps, count the seconds out loud. It naturally keeps you breathing and gives your mind something steady to focus on. The fourth mistake is trying to do both legs together to save time. I understand the instinct, but splitting your concentration between 2 legs weakens the contraction in both. Give each leg your full, undivided attention, one at a time. And the fifth is skipping the rest between repetitions. That 5-second relaxation isn't wasted time. It's when the muscle resets so the next contraction can be just as strong as the last one. Skip it repeatedly, and each squeeze gets a little weaker than the one before. One small addition that makes a real difference. If you want to get even more out of this movement, here's a detail I share with my own patients. While you're pressing your knee down and tightening your thigh, also gently pull your toes back toward your face. This brings your shin and calf muscles into the movement alongside your thigh, so you're strengthening a wider stretch of your leg in the very same 10 seconds without adding any extra time to your day. Who this is especially good for? This movement is remarkably forgiving, which is part of why I love recommending it, because there's no bending, no standing, and no impact on the joint at all. It's well suited for people with arthritis in the knee, people recovering from a fall, and people who haven't been able to do much standing exercise at all recently. If you're caring for a parent or a spouse who's been mostly resting in bed after an illness or a procedure, this is very often one of the first movements I introduce, because it asks so little of the body while still doing real, measurable work underneath the surface. That said, and I'll say this once more because it matters, if you've had a recent knee surgery, a hip replacement, or any condition your doctor is actively treating, check with them first. This is a gentle movement, but gentle and right for every single situation aren't always the same thing, and your doctor knows your specific circumstances better than I ever could from here. Why this actually works, in plain terms I mentioned in the last part that this kind of still, no movement squeeze is called an isometric contraction. Let me explain simply why that matters so much once the legs have already weakened. Your muscles are made up of different types of fibers. Some are built for light, everyday endurance, the kind used in a slow walk. Others are built for real strength, and they only switch on when a muscle is asked to work hard, not just move. A gentle walk mostly recruits that first, easier group of fibers. A firm, sustained squeeze like the quad set reaches into the second group, the ones responsible for the strength you need to push up out of a chair or catch yourself if you stumble. This is precisely why research comparing quad sets to daily walking in older adults whose legs had already weakened found the quad set group gained noticeably more quadriceps strength and improved their walking speed more. even though they spent far less total time exercising than the walking group did. It isn't about how long you move, it's about how deeply you ask the muscle to work. A quiet kind of progress. One thing I always tell my patients: don't expect this to feel dramatic in the first few days. Isometric strength builds quietly underneath the surface, before it shows up in your daily life. Most people I've guided through this notice the shift somewhere around the 2 to 3 week mark, a small but unmistakable moment. Standing up from the couch without pushing off with your hands. Getting out of the car a little more smoothly, feeling steadier on the first few stairs. If this is helping you understand your own body a little better, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up before you go any further. It genuinely helps this information reach the next person who's quietly frustrated, wondering why their daily walk isn't giving them what they hoped for. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. I'll be walking through more of these one movement explanations, the kind you were never given the full picture on before now. Stay with me, we're not finished yet. By now, you know the movement, you know exactly how to do it correctly, and you know the mistakes to avoid. What I want to give you today is everything that comes after, how this fits into a real life, not just a demonstration, and how to recognize progress long before it becomes obvious to anyone watching you. Building it into a life, not a chore. The biggest reason well-meaning routines fall apart isn't lack of willpower, it's that they ask too much of a day that's already full, so I want to make this as simple as I possibly can. You don't need a special time of day, a special outfit, or a special mindset. You need 10 minutes and a bed you're already lying in. Most of my patients build this in one of two ways. Some do it first thing, before they've even swung their legs over the side of the bed in the morning, a kind of quiet warm-up before the day asks anything of them. Others do it at night, right before sleep, as the last thing their body does before it rests. Either works. What matters is picking the one that's easiest for you to remember, because a movement you actually do consistently will always outperform a perfect routine you only do twice. If mornings and evenings both feel like too much right now, start with just one. One faithful 10 minutes a day, done correctly, is worth more than a routine you abandon by the end of the week. How to know it's working before it's obvious. This is the part almost nobody tells you, and I think it's the most important thing I can leave you with. Strength doesn't announce itself. It doesn't show up as a dramatic before and after. It shows up quietly, in moments so small you might almost miss them. Watch for these signs over the coming weeks. The first time you stand up from a chair and realize halfway up that you didn't use your hands. The first time you're on the stairs and you notice your hand is resting on the railing rather than gripping it. The first time you get out of the car and your legs simply hold you, without that half second of bracing you'd gotten used to. None of these moments feel like victories in themselves, but they are exactly what real strength looks like when it returns. Not a single triumphant day, but a slow disappearance of the small compensations you'd stopped even noticing you were making. A patient story. I want to close with someone I think about often. His name was Walter, 81 years old, a retired mechanic who'd always taken pride in doing things himself. A knee that had bothered him for years had quietly turned into something bigger. He'd stopped trusting his legs the way he used to. He told me, almost embarrassed to say it out loud, that he'd started planning his day around which chairs had armrests. Walter was skeptical when I explained the quad set to him. "That's it? Just squeezing?" he asked me, the same way I imagine some of you might be thinking it right now. I told him what I've told you, that simple and effective aren't opposites, and that the strength this builds happens somewhere the eye can't see, in fibers that a lifetime of gentle movement had never fully reached. He committed to it, mostly out of stubbornness, he later admitted. 6 weeks in, he called my office to tell me something that had nothing to do with his knee directly. He'd stood up from his recliner to answer the door, and he was 3 steps into the hallway before he realized he hadn't thought about it at all. He hadn't braced, he hadn't planned. His legs had simply done what legs are supposed to do. That's what this movement gave him back. Not just strength, the ability to stop thinking about his own body as something unreliable, a gentle reminder before you go. If you've been walking every day and feeling discouraged that it hasn't translated into the strength you were hoping for, I hope what you've learned today changes how you think about that. You weren't failing. You simply hadn't been given the piece of the picture that actually mattered for where your legs are right now. That piece is the quad set. 10 quiet minutes, done correctly, in the place you already start and end your day. And once more, because I care about you actually getting to benefit from this for years to come. If you have a knee replacement, a recent surgery, or a condition your doctor is actively managing, bring this to them first. This movement is safe for the vast majority of people, but your own doctor knows your history in a way I never could through a screen. If this series helped you see your own body a little differently, I'd genuinely love to hear about it. Tell me in the comments, are you someone who's been walking every day and wondering why it hasn't been enough? Or are you watching this for a parent or a spouse who said the exact same thing to you? I read everyone, and I want to know which part of this landed for you. And if you know someone who's been quietly frustrated the way Eleanor was, the way Walter was, share this with them. Sometimes the kindest thing we can do for someone we love is hand them the piece of information nobody thought to give them. Thank you for spending this time with me. I'll see you in the next one.